Welcome to Listertainment. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe down below. And like part 1 of this series, I look forward to reading all of your thoughts and reasons on why I'm wrong. All martial arts are respected by some people, and I understand if you think I'm mistaken. But I do provide evidence for my stance and hope you understand that as well. Also, these are not in any particular order. Let's get right into it. Starting off this list, we have this Russian Kung Fu, which might be based off of animal Kung Fu. This looks to be a complete joke of a martial art that has been evolved by this Russian guy, which I have seen he has been called the Kung Fu Crow. As you can see by this pop blocking dance style of fighting, this is completely useless in any fight. This leaves you completely open to being hit since your hands are outstretched outward or drop down by your sides. What I see from this guy and many other martial arts that I include in my videos are that the moves and techniques they show take too long to develop. In theory and in practice you think that they might be a good idea, but in an actual fight, hits are going to be raining down on you and you won't be able to do any of these moves. Also, it appears you need a lot of cooperation from your opponent so you will be able to follow up. Finally, there are some parts in the video where he appears to turn his back to his opponent, which is just going to end with him being knocked out. Capoeira is probably the best looking of all the martial arts in the world. It looks so beautiful when you have a truly experienced fighter doing it. For God's sakes, just look at this guy go, he looks so awesome. It's one of those martial arts that when you see it, you just want to learn it, mostly so you can show off those incredible acrobatic moves. Capoeira actually used to be the leading martial art in Brazil up to a couple of years ago when the Gracie family started showcasing their Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. The Gracies would actually go to the beaches of Brazil where Capoeira was being taught, and they would challenge the fighters to real matches, and of course they kicked their ass. This led to people seeing that Jiu-Jitsu is a superior martial art, so Capoeira started to fall to the wayside. Capoeira looks like a fantasy style of fighting, where things have to be just so, or the opponent has to be confused or intimidated by the moves in order for it to work. It's more of a dance style where you hope that the person is in the right spot for the hit. Finally, some of the techniques take so long for it to develop that the other person will already be on top of you, nullifying all your moves. It's a martial art that requires a lot of separation from your opponent, which just doesn't happen in real fights. So I'm not quite sure if sumo qualifies as a martial art, and not just an entertainment source, but I'm going to include it anyways. The obvious reason that sumo is a bad martial art is because it's all about being really overweight to be truly good at this sport. Although you could claim that these fighters are somewhat athletic, if they were to ever face another fighter that is smaller, they would have a huge disadvantage in speed and quickness. The smaller fighter would have trouble hurting the sumo wrestler if they were to go straight at them, but if the smaller guy dodges to the sides and kicks him in the knees, then the sumo would go down fairly easily. The only real chance that the sumo fighter has is if he gets lucky and catches the smaller fighter, but obviously if we are talking about a street fight, then there are no ropes for him to be cornered, so he would have a real hard time trying to catch the other fighter. In the end, the bigger guy would also get tired and the smaller fighter would be able to end the fight. There is also a massive shortfall of any actual strikes. You mostly only learn to basically slap the other guy in the chest when you go to grab them to knock them over, but there are no other techniques taught in offense and much less in defense. Aikido has a very tiny number of good techniques in its training, but only if you stick to the basic moves that don't require the other fighter to do something so exact for it to work.
To punch you in the face, we used to do this here, you know, a nice There
are so many moves that require things to go exactly right, and in a real fight they will never go as you expect it. Since it appears that for some of the more intricate moves, you require the other person to almost not resist or not pull back their hands after throwing a punch. But obviously this will never be the case, because as soon as you stop one of the hands, the other one will be coming right at your face or body, or the other person will pull back. There is also a lot of punching catching in this martial art, which is never a good idea, which is for the same reason as before, because the other hand will come right after the one you caught. But the reason that trying to catch a punch is never a good idea is because your hands are too far away from your face, and if you miss the catch, the hand will hit its target. Aikido also has very little training on the ground, which will probably occur in a real fight, because every time you go to throw somebody down to the ground in this martial art, they could easily grab you and take you down with them, at which point your training is useless. It also seems like Aikido is based on the opponent rushing you, at which point you can use his own inertia against them. But what happens if the person stops right in front of you and starts throwing strikes while holding his position? Then your Aikido flow won't work.
Humby's arm is exposed and... there's the break. Oh man, that's disappointing for the big Indian. He knows there's nothing left to do now but break his own neck and forfeit.
First, let's look at this video here of this so-called combat Tai Chi master with tons of views on YouTube. He decides to show his style with this guy right here, where he is telling him to throw kicks at him so he can show that his fluid motion works perfectly. But apparently this guy is somewhat of a skeptic because he was throwing some solid kicks. And if you see here, the master's techniques are obviously not working since he reacts by throwing a palm punch right at his face. The other guy is not expecting this to happen at all, and that's why he gets hit. And this instructor just made it seem like it was all his techniques and his training. But the reason he did it was because his so-called style was not doing anything, and he got mad.
Right. And right. Continue. Go much slower than this.
He also trains in his one-punch knockout and decides to show this by trying his hit on a piece of wood. But I've seen these pieces of wood before, and they aren't hard at all. It's not like it's a 1-inch thick Douglas fir. They're made from Chinese paulownia wood and are not designed to be really strong. My nieces used to train in Taekwondo and they had these pieces, and one time I grabbed one just to see how strong it was, and I broke it with my head and felt no pain. So this technique obviously doesn't work.
And you get the idea of the right.
Tai Chi, in my opinion, is just another martial art that has too many complicated moves that will never work in a real fight. It takes too much time to set up the moves, and it's just unrealistic when it comes to fighting in the streets.
The MMA guy thinking going to hurt the Tai Chi person. The Tai Chi person is just like moving around trying to thinking he can do something. Reality tells me you cannot do it like that. Tai Chi is not designed for combat in this present day.
When it comes to martial arts, I don't necessarily think that one single martial art has all the answers. You must learn multiple in order to defend yourself for all situations. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu for the ground, boxing for punch and attack and defense, and Muay Thai for kicking. What do you guys think is the best martial art? Please let me know down below. And thanks for watching.